G'day folks, welcome to another video. I apologise for the length of time in between me doing these. It's been a long year. Having said that, I've had a lot of time to process the videos that have been sticking, the ones where I've been getting some traction and views, versus the ones which have been really getting people fired up about, which today's video I want to focus on what I would regard as probably one of the best quality controlled knife manufacturers that are out there. And they don't just manufacture knives, they manufacture multi-tools as well, and that's Victorinox, known as the Swiss Army knife people. I can't fault this stuff. I've got multiple amounts of knives. These are the ones that I use on a more frequent basis, obviously, other than the bottom one, the new Ventura, which I've just purchased. I have multiples of these in the much smaller configuration, and they're still going. They're still going. The only reason I've pulled them out of my rotation is that the in the scissors, that little spring mechanism, after we're talking about 15 years of probably daily use, they've that little spring has broken apart. Having said that, they are replaceable. I just haven't done that. So I will show you the small lineup that I have got of other Swiss Army, my small compact. I don't know the names off the top of their heads because they're just the little ones, the ones that contain the scissors, the file, the tweezers, and the toothpick. Amazing little things, as well as the little knife. So I've got two that I was gifted from my best friend. One of them I've had that for more than 20 years. It's still working. It's that little spring in the scissors that has, gone bye-bye. The stuff that comes out of factory, never ever had an issue with them. I'll walk you through some of these. First one is, this is the first single bladed one that I've ever purchased from Victorinox. This is a 4-inch paring knife. I've had this for about 11 years. I bought it on photo shoots so that I can, slice up and prep food for food photography, and it's never really let me down. It has had a fair bit of use. I haven't butchered it, this thing, it's never really seen much rust. I have looked after it, so it gets its use. I'll clean it up, and but yeah, beautiful knife. I'm not holding it properly. I'm kind of trying to do this for the camera. I'll show you what this cuts like on through paper. So it's not super sharp. Grab some of that out of the way. It could probably do with a bit of a touch-up with the sharpening stone, and maybe just a strop, really. 11 years. In terms of protection, I obviously give it a clean straight after usage. Wipe it down. In terms of storage for this, it did come with this kind of little sheath sort of thing from Victorinox. Now, I don't have that anymore. I don't know what happened to that. I lost that on a photo shoot. Pulled it out, and then by the end of the day when I went to put the stuff away, it was gone. Somebody has obviously thrown it in the bin. So what I have made up is this rudimentary cover. It's just a bit of cardboard, doubled over quite a few times, just taped up with masking tape. Very rudimentary, but and you can see that that's kind of, I've now got that sticking out through the tip. So I'm going to have to do a bit of a slight upgrade. It's not very nice, but does the job. So that's how I store this. Beautiful knife, love it. Food prep is amazing on this. You're just very limited. You've got a little bit of flex on the blade. I wouldn't be doing, if you're going to be doing food prep, your potatoes will still be okay. Normal potatoes, that being sweet potato, probably not so great. And then once you start moving into the pumpkin, you're dealing in danger zone. This is too flexible for doing that properly, especially if it's thick. With a bit of care, you can do it, but that's about the limits where this goes in terms of food. Put that guy aside and put that back up here. Alright, the next one in the list, I've had this. This is a 15 centimeter chef / cook's carving knife. I've had this for about 8 months. So this was purchased within the year. It's probably been a little bit more. This guy hasn't really been sharpened, it's been stropped. Again, this is just super sharp. Super sharp. You know, beautiful, glides through stuff like no tomorrow. If anything, I'll probably, you know, using the strop a bit more will maintain the edge on this. Overall, they maintain their edges pretty well. Bit of addicted doing this. If you kind of like your knives, then you'll find some level of therapy in just slicing through paper or even just sharpening them. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful blade. I opted for this other than the 19 centimeter chef's knife. And reason I purchased this was obviously to take away on trips overseas. I can't stand going somewhere traveling and going fishing and bringing back fish and the knives in the place are absolute junk. So I prefer to take a knife with me, a honing steel as well as a filleting knife. I will do a rundown on my filleting knives at a later stage. I believe that the sweet spot for holding this is pretty much, you know, just, you know, where you're kind of choking the knife up right. That's probably about the nice balance point where you can kind of roll the knife on a cutting board with your index finger and your thumb holding onto the blade. It's absolutely beautiful. It can give you a lot more control as well because you don't have to, you know, you can just pinch grip the blade and just really get in there with, you know, your fine chopping and stuff. Absolutely beautiful. Really, really, really love this knife. The next one in the list here is my Swiss Army knife Huntsman. The model of this is 1.3713. Beautiful knife. Had this for about 4 years. Really good. There are a few things that I use on here consistently. Obviously the blade, both the large and the small. The small I tend to use more for carving things. If I'm trying to, you know, whittle around and have a bit more control over cutting up wood, then it's the smaller one that I'll use. I'll show you how sharp they both are. Again, these have never been sharpened other than stropped with a bit of leather. So let me just show you that. It's not cutting as finely as the others. This could probably do with a tune-up with a bit of sharpening. That's not bad. You know, let me just spin that around, grab the smaller one as well. That's cutting too. Out of these two blades, the smaller one has had a thrashing, and that's through wood. You can probably see some marring in there as well, but that is obviously through hacking into small pieces of wood. You know, there have been things that I've made out of here, like, you know, small spoon, chopsticks, fork, another little tiny spoon. All of these were pretty much done using that small blade. The joys of COVID and not being able to go outside, especially here in Australia, I found solace in being able to cutting up wood was a bit of an escape for me. So small blade, still very, very sharp. Beautiful, beautiful blades. Can't fault their stuff. Their saw on here, absolutely amazing. It gives Leatherman like something to think about, because the Leatherman tools are good. I love Leatherman as well, but when it comes to the saw, for example, the Victorinox, hands down, they're not even in the same league. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, test it. Anyway, let's move on. And now this is obviously my newest edition, which I've only just gotten. And this is the Victorinox Venture. A nice thick spine, full flat grind on both sides. Let me show you this guy. I know this is new. This is pretty much what a Victorinox blade will cut like straight out of the box. Yeah, let me do a few more down on this camera angle. I think I've got some kinks in the paper. It doesn't like the kinks in the paper, but just... And for a really thick blade, this for me is going to be, I have no doubt about it already. I had originally purchased a Mora, a companion for as a camp knife, which included more food prep than other stuff. And I had issues. I had issues about that, which I've mentioned in another video before. But I believe that this is my ultimate knife, camp knife. I'm not going to call it a bushcraft because I think that the Mora might have its place there. But in terms of camp, food prep, stainless steel being around water for fishing, in my circumstance of the stuff that I need and I want out of a really solid blade, I believe this is it. Love it. Absolutely love it. So there you go. Hope you enjoyed that. I will create separate videos on some of these on their own. But in the meantime, ciao for now.